Hello, I'm Dave, and I'm here with Playthrough Board Games. Today we're going to take a look at Mice and Mystics Downwood Tales. I will be playing through this game scenario by scenario. However, I wanted to give you an overview of the components and other elements of the game in case you're new, and also give you a sense of how I feel that this expansion will fit in with the main game. You will need a copy of Mice and Mystics, Sorrow and Remembrance in order to play Mice and Mystics Downwood Tales. If you already have that, then you'll be interested to know what's in the box and how it relates to what you already own. Thank you for watching, and let's get started. Hello again. As you can see, I've moved the box aside and I have laid out some of the components before us here. Returning components include the initiative track cards, which you can see is quite a big pile here, as well as ability cards. There appear to be many new abilities as well as some returning favorites. There are also equipment cards here. These equipment cards represent your character's starting equipment as well as special equipment and items that they may find throughout explorations of various tiles. Speaking of tiles, here they are. There are a number of tiles. They share the similar front and back side format that we're accustomed to if we've played through Mice and Mystics before, as well as the miniatures here we will also be accustomed to if we have played Mice and Mystics before. These miniatures represent your allies, enemies, and your heroes. There are 3 new heroes to the game. There is Ansel, there is Diddy, and there is Jacoba. Diddy and Jacoba are different types of creatures other than mice, but Ansel appears to be a mouse still. So finally there are the dice here. These dice are familiar to players of Mice and Mystics. They are specific dice to this game that allow you to attack, defend, and perform scenario-specific actions. The booklet here has been combined, the story booklet and the rule booklet, and is bound in a little bit neater format than previous booklets. It looks a little bit more durable and also gives a nicer, shinier feel to me. So that's a basic overview of the components. We'll take a look at some of these punch-out components here in a little bit. Before we go into greater depth about the components, I think it fair to warn you that there may be some spoilers involved in what I'm about to show you. So if you do not wish to have the game spoiled for you, I would recommend not watching this section of the video and simply waiting to see my playthroughs to see how the surprises actually play out in the game itself. That being said, we'll get started and take a look at some of the newer elements of the game. The first element that stands out to me are these overlays for the particular tiles you are on. The snake seems like some sort of obstacle or perhaps even an enemy that we will be encountering throughout the game. It will probably block our mice's path and maybe require us to fight it. Again, I have not played through the scenarios, so what I am saying is a bit speculative, but I think it's a reasonable conclusion to draw based on what we're seeing here. The next thing here is a set of tokens. There are some things that again seem to be placeable on the map, like the bees in the corner or these turtle shell looking creatures. I suspect that these tokens here, the owl, the gecko, and the weird branch creature on the end, are things that we will encounter throughout the game and perhaps be able to befriend. There's an old gnome hat, a teaspoon paddle, and a magic carrot, which are doubtless new party items. Up at the top here, there are a number of citizens whom we will be able to interact with, no doubt, throughout the course of the game. Notch appears to be some sort of creature maybe we can use as an ally or a friend, and the tree token probably represents our alliance with a certain faction within the game. There seem to be new statuses here, on fire and cursed. On fire probably deals us damage, and cursed I would suspect would impact our ability to attack, defend, and do other actions dependent on the luck of the dice. So that's an overview of one of the tile sets here. Let's look at a lower punch-out board and see what's on that. There's a branch here. This branch appears to be something you could overlay onto a tile, And it has an enemy entry point, as well as these A and B notations here. I'm not sure what the A and B notations are for, but the enemy entry point seems to be fairly clear. Other icons on this are the moon, a mushroom, an egg in the upper corner, and some sort of circular object here. There appears to be another type of leaf, as well as some other tokens. They are named, so there's something called Shallop, Princess Phasia, a cute scoundrel, and some other things that I don't recognize. The bedrolls is doubtless a party item again, and this in the upper corner looks to be something fairly spoilerific, so I may not show that in great detail. There are more cheese tokens, and that's about it for this particular punch-out board. There is another branch overlay component here. Note that there are 2 enemy entry points, as well as B and C and A lettering to represent certain entry or exit points, presumably, or some other interaction with the map that they are being placed on. So we'll see what these look like as I play through scenarios again, but this is just my speculation based on my experience with the game. What I do like about this branch entry point type system is that it could add modularity to different tiles, thus increasing the variety of experience that we will have in Mice and Mystics Downwood Tales. Let's take a look at some of our new characters. Diddy is a shrew and also a scamp, and those are her 2 classes. That means she will be able to choose abilities that have either the shrew or the scamp keyword in them. She has 2 unique abilities printed on her card here. One is Forage, that allows her to remove a cheese from the minion cheese wheel if she discards the drawn card from a successful search in order to gain a cheese. So that would allow us to potentially slow down the rate at which we would get enemies added to our tile if we were close to exhausting the cheese wheel. Diddy is also an opportunist. It says to add 1 to Diddy's battle when attacking a knocked down minion. So she has an advantage to hitting someone when she's down, and that could be useful. Starting equipment is a peppercorn sling and a fox whisker fiddle. We'll have to see what the fiddle in particular is like. I imagine the peppercorn sling will also give us the ability to do a ranged attack. Anyway, that's my first thoughts on Diddy the Shrew. Let's go take a look at Jacoba the Gekko. This is Jacoba here. He is lucky, which means he's immune to the cursed status effect, which gives some credence to my theory that the cursed status effect has to do with dice rolls, but again we'll have to find out during these scenarios when I do my playthroughs. He has a detachable tail, which is nice because he can avoid being captured if he loses all of his health. So we have 1 get out of jail free type ability with Jacoba here. He has a boomerang and a leaf vest, so hopefully the leaf vest will give us more defense, because his defense is not all that high. It is currently only a 1. He's an archer, so that will give us some ranged attack. He's a gecko, and also wild. So those are the 3 class traits he has, which will allow us to select his abilities accordingly. That's it for Jacoba. Let's take a look at Ansel. Ansel is a warden and a warrior, so he has a little bit of a higher attack, probably, than some other characters. He sounds like he starts with some powerful equipment, the Retribution Blade and the Serpent Scale Shield, so hopefully that will make him fairly durable. He has 4 health, so his selfless trait will not hopefully hurt as much. So there are some benefits to using this character. Each time a player reads a new story moment, add 1 cheese to Ansel's stash. So that could power his abilities a little bit more quickly than some other characters might have their abilities powered. He's selfless, which may be a drawback here. It says he cannot be healed by another mouse unless all other mice in his party have no wound markers. So we may be able to get around that if a character other than a mouse can use a healing ability, but if he's only in a party of mice, he will not allow himself to be healed until everyone else has been healed. We'll have to see how that plays out, but that's Ansel. And that concludes our look at the various characters here. We're going to take a look at some of the miniatures here, and then that will conclude my unboxing. To close out our overview here, I wanted to show you some of the more unique enemy creatures that we'll be encountering. There's this guy who's a mole-like giant creature, and he has big claws and big teeth, so doubtless will be coming after us with melee attacks. There's another unique creature here that's a stoat or weasel. He has also got big claws, and I'm assuming will put the hurt on us with physical attacks. Next up, we've got two toad enemies here. They're a little bit smaller than the creatures I just showed you, but they still look like they could pack a punch, especially considering the size of your characters. For example, here's Jacoba the Gekko compared to the size of these two minion figures. The next unique looking character we have is this rat looking creature. There's only one of him in the box, so he may be some sort of enemy or perhaps an ally. Here are some other unique characters. Their plastic is even a different color slightly than other figures, so I'm not sure what that is to indicate. Perhaps they fight alongside us, or perhaps they are simply some elite troop of enemies. There are some more generic enemy characters, so let's take a minute to look at those. They're these dragonfly-looking fighters. They have 4 wings, and they have a sword. I'm not sure if the flying mechanic will be somehow reflected in their movement rules, but they look like they'll also be trying to get up close and attack us. That leaves us with these ranged characters here. These are lizard-like characters. They have flaming arrows, which doubtless is responsible for the on-fire condition that we saw, and they will be trying to shoot at us from a distance. It's possible that there are some initiative cards that give some variability to these different enemy groups, but that's a generic overview of what we can tell just from looking at the miniatures. We have the mice and other hero miniatures to look at now. So here's Ansel. You can see his shield with the snake on it, and his sword. So they do a pretty good job of eking out those details into their character models here. And there's Jacoba. He has his boomerang, he has his staff, and he's wearing his little cloak. So again, there's some good detail on the miniature. Finally, we have Diddy the Shrew. She's got her sling, and on her back, if you look, you can see the little instrument that she plays. So again, that's a look at the 3 hero miniatures that are unique to this boxed set, Downwood Tales, and that concludes our overview. Hello again, and thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed my overview of Mice and Mystics Downwood Tales, and I hope it has helped you decide whether this game is something you would like to invest in. If you would like to see more, in a few weeks' time I will have some playthroughs of the opening scenarios of Mice and Mystics Downwood Tales online for you to look at. Thanks again on behalf of Playthrough Board Games, and we'll see you next time.